The following program is the work of the broadcast students at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. BCIT Magazine features news stories from around the Lower Mainland which were produced over the last week. Responsibility for the content of the show rests completely with the students and their instructors.
Coming up on BCIT Magazine, students join a global movement for climate change.
The bees are back after a historically cold February.
And local letters connect to the east side.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Jenny Cameron.
And I'm Matt Lawson. Thousands of students from all over the Lower Mainland skipped school last week for climate change. Our Aya Benasso has a story.
These local teens join millions of other students across the globe to walk out of school on Friday. They are demanding climate justice.
We're really great because we're setting an example of urgency. By putting aside our normal lives, we are showing government what it looks like to prioritize climate action in our lives.
The worldwide movement was inspired by 16-year-old Swedish activist Greta Thunberg, who began holding solitary demonstrations outside Sweden's parliament last year.
1.5, stay alive! 1.5, stay alive!
These teens want every level of government to create a climate action plan in line with science.
And if we can get everyone in government to actually be like that, regardless of what party, we can form a coalition, because it has to be a nonpartisan thing. People have to work across party lines and make a much bigger agreement than just one party or another.
Many teens say they will continue demonstrations every Friday until real change is made.
We, the youth, are going to continue to rise until we see real action. We have a federal election coming up this fall, and we are going to make climate action a priority in that election.
Hamilton and her fellow protesters say climate policy can be complicated, but the decision to prioritize it is not. Aya Benasso in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
We're now joined by Aya Benasso. Aya, what are some of the changes that these youth are looking for?
Well, I did speak to one of the organizers, Rebecca Hamilton, and she said that the main thing they want to see is an emissions reduction plan that is in line with what the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change recommends. Matt?
And how can people at home get involved?
Well, the IPCC actually recommends that the most impactful thing that you can do is to talk about it. So sharing knowledge and having conversations will make people care and spread more awareness. Back to you.
Thanks, Aya.
With temperatures on the rise, bees are starting to return after a long winter filled with wasp attacks. Beekeepers are in for a busy spring. My co-anchor Matt Lawson checked out what's buzzing.
The sun is back, and with it, so are the bees. Following the coldest Metro Vancouver February on record, these furry flyers are in for an uphill battle as they return to action.
Well, it's been a really tough year. In February, it was a very trying period. There's just so many problems. We've got, varroa mites, diseases, we've got pesticides, we've got urbanization, and climate change. All of it impacts the health of the honeybee.
On top of those issues, the struggling honeybees have also had to deal with attacks from their thriving arch rivals.
Yeah, so the wasp, they seem to grow in cycles, and 2018 was a big year for wasp populations. There was a lot of wasps, and they tend to target hives that are perhaps not as strong and robust, or they're already suffering from some forms of diseases.
Wong says people often lose sight of how important honeybees are. They contribute more than $500 million to the BC economy every year. People can help the bee population by planting bee-friendly gardens, especially in the spring when populations are at their low point. Matt Lawson in Richmond for BCIT Magazine. Students at Simon Fraser University are fighting back against proposed tuition hikes.
We want to know why our tuition is so high.
SFU has a proposed budget increase that could see up to a 20% tuition hike next fall. Student organizers with SFU's Tuition Freeze Now campaign want the Board of Governors to vote against the new budget.
At least now SFU will see that students are serious about getting involved. Students are serious about taking back our education.
Students want the school to halt tuition for the next 2 academic years and to work together to lobby the government.
Students are coming together to help bridge the gap between 2 communities who don't normally meet. And they're using a more old-fashioned method, letter writing. Laura Johnston has the story.
Tori Gallagher is a UBC undergraduate student, and she just wrote a letter to a resident of the downtown east side at this booth.
I feel like a lot of people are judged incorrectly or negatively, as in like the residents in the downtown east side, for instance, are pegged as like homeless and like drug addicts when it's not necessarily true.
Kite Vancouver is a student-run nonprofit, and they're hoping to help end territorial stigmatization. This frames residents of a specific area as separate entities, which are often excluded from a collective city identity. This is what Kite is hoping to remedy here in our city.
We believe that like a lot of people, they spend their whole lives in Vancouver and know very little about the nuances of what actually goes on the downtown east side.
And that's where the letters come in. Students stopping by were able to write a letter to establish a relationship between UBC residents and downtown east side residents. And Tori was excited to make a direct connection.
I think writing a letter is like the first step on like bridging the connection, but also like acknowledging social issues and like ways that we should help each other out.
Every Sunday morning, Kite's partner organization, Bumpin' Bakery, delivers coffee and food to residents at Main and Hastings, and that's when the letters will be delivered by volunteers. Over the course of the day, over 50 letters were written, and Kite says they hope to keep encouraging community engagement, especially in young people. Laura Johnston in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
The youngest calf of one of British Columbia's most famous killer whales now has a name. The calf is being called Storm after a poll was conducted by Oceanwise. Coming up after the break, a couple sells their home to live out their dream.
And a new way to analyze a crime scene.
It's March Madness.
But before you get your brackets busted, these are your upcoming events in this week's community calendar.
Did you know that the average person is supposed to consume 8-ounce glasses of water per day? What better day to make sure you get your H2O intake than International Water Day this Friday, March 22nd. Come join us at SFU from 5 to 7:30 p.m. where they'll be hosting a documentary, a panel discussion, as well as serving refreshments.
For all you rap fans, Vince Staples returns to Vancouver on March 22 for the Smile You're on Camera tour. But the only thing that should be on camera are these flashy passes.
What's this basketball nonsense? Let's talk some hockey. You missed your chance to see Elias Pettersson play live this year? Don't miss your chance this weekend when the Canucks host back-to-back home games against Calgary on Saturday and Columbus on Sunday.
I'm Jason Manawis.
And I'm Riley Reduke.
That was your community calendar for this week.
Thank you for watching.
Journalism's changed a lot in the last 20 years, and BCIT has been at the forefront of that evolution.
Those are your news updates for Evolution 1079 News.
Now it seems like the industry is changing by the minute, so now, more than ever, we're taught how to adapt.
The federal government unveiled a new immigration plan that would
When I first started at BCIT, there was only one thing that I really wanted to do in journalism, and this program really opened my eyes to all the avenues of employment. And now I feel really confident that I have the skills to get hired.
From day one, you're out there chasing down stories.
You aren't just sitting in a classroom reading about journalism, you are a journalist.
BCIT Newsroom. I look back at the work I was doing even 3 months ago, and it's just amazing to see how far you can come in such a little bit of time. This program really teaches you skills and techniques to learn how to better communicate.
Jamie Dodd in Vancouver.
In New Westminster.
In Burnaby.
For BCIT Magazine.
Good afternoon, my name is Jason Manalis, and today for BCIT Magazine, we are joined by social justice advocate Jack Travato. Welcome to the show, Jack.
Thank you.
Now, describe what's your 9 to 5 like? What do you do on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, I am a school principal for a new independent school in downtown Vancouver.
Okay. Now, what I've heard or what I've seen is you've started a petition on change.org about having a public inquiry.
Yes.
Now, why have you done that?
Well, a couple of reasons, Jason. The first thing were the release of some statistics regarding the opioid crisis and the deaths that were happening here in British Columbia. I was astounded by, there were reported deaths of 120 in the month of November. Now that was a while ago, it was last year. But I remember that really impacting me. That's 4 deaths per day right here in our province. We know that we have about 1,500 people that have died in British Columbia as a result of overdoses. And we know that in Canada in general, there's been about 4,000 opioid-related deaths last year. And that's pretty shocking. That in combination with the reports that have come out in the news about transnational crime syndications, money laundering through the use of fentanyl into our real estate market. And we all know that there's a lack of affordable housing, particularly here in Metro Vancouver. And that has caused more concern because lots of families can't afford to live here and they're moving away.
Okay. Now, when it comes to this petition and this movement or rally for a public inquiry against the BC government, now all of these cities and municipalities are starting to join in. What's your feelings about that? And do you think it's a step in the right direction?
Absolutely. Absolutely a step in the right direction. In fact, I would think that based on the 3 levels of government, I think the biggest impact is actually at the city level. Because at the city level, most of their jurisdiction revolves around development and redevelopment and rezoning and things of that nature. So if we're talking about money that's being laundered in our real estate economy, I think at the city level, more than the provincial or the federal level, that would be the biggest impact.
Okay, and last question for you. Now, since there are some who say a public inquiry is not cheap or maybe against it, what would be your final comments to those who may be against a public inquiry?
Well, what's the cost of not doing it? I do know that it was recently released that the Charbonneau commission that happened in Quebec, it was expensive. It cost $35 million, more or less, right? And what they were able to recover as a result of that inquiry was $95 million. So that's a net gain of $60 million. That in itself is worth it. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree so. All right. Thank you very much. That was Jack Travato, a social justice advocate who started a petition to go for a public inquiry into money laundering. Back to the show.
A local couple has sold their townhouse in Surrey and donated most of their belongings, all to live in nature. My co-anchor, Jenny Cameron, has the story.
Welcome to our house. Come on in.
Ragnar Odinson and Heider Schmicke are now living their dream. They are permanently living here in this rented backyard.
Just trying to get out into nature, get away from the day-to-day rat race of everybody else, really explore and expand our spirituality in a more relaxed environment, and reconnect with our inner animal, our inner self, and our pre-Christian beliefs.
They have been living off the grid for 3 weeks now. Instead of watching TV or scrolling through social media in their free time, they put their energy into different activities.
There's so much more opportunity to explore a little more nature and privately, not in a park, you know.
They chop wood to keep their fire going. They throw axes at a target. Ragnar enjoys armor sword fighting. And Hyder has been knitting a blanket.
This symbolizes the chaos of the mind, and you're weaving it into order.
They agree getting in touch with nature has helped their mental health.
We were very boxed in, and my stress levels were through the roof. I would say my stress levels have decreased about 30 to 40%.
Every day, the shore of my spirituality is being eroded away by the waves of society, stress, everything.
They plan to eventually move to the Kootenays, where they hope to build their own log cabin.
I think really truly is just trust your instincts, go with what you need to do, and you'll know what's right.
Go. Jenny Cameron in Surrey, BCIT Magazine. The BCIT Forensics Department is giving students a chance to experience a crime scene through virtual reality. Sean Murphy investigates.
BCIT's appearance at the BC Tech Summit included a virtual murder. BCIT faculty with the Forensics Department, Steen Hartson, guided people through the crime scene. Finding fingerprints, showing DNA matches, and more, the program, although short, could serve as an introduction into the world of forensic science. The program was designed by computer science students as part of a capstone project, and Hansen hopes this can find a home in the crime scene investigation course.
We're looking for people who want some skilled labor to try and work on their problems. And that's what they've done for us. We're fortunate that, as part of a list of projects, virtual reality crime scene is kind of sexy, and I think we're always going to be able to find someone interested in working on that.
Another exciting project could find its way into the nursing program.
So they're looking to create an augmented reality version where they would essentially create these virtual wounds on patients.
The BCIT Forensic DNA Lab also provides biological screening, known reference sample typing, and casework consultation. Sean Murphy in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine.
We are now joined by our reporter, Sean Murphy. Sean, is this technology currently in use at BCIT?
Great question, Jenny. It's not just yet. Hartson is hopeful, though, that soon some other computer science students will take it on, and it can eventually become part of the crime scene curriculum.
So where is VR being used at BCIT?
Yeah, it definitely is. So where I filmed that was actually at the MediaWorks in the library. Any student at BCIT can go there, throw on this headset, and try out some VR if they're curious. There is also now a dedicated curriculum called the MRAR VR Certificate Program. It's part-time. Students can learn all about virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. Back to you.
A Vancouver driver received 2 tickets in 6 minutes. Sergeant Jason Robillard of the Vancouver Police Department says the fines totaled over $700. The VPD were issuing tickets as part of a province-wide crackdown on distracted driving.
However, having cell phones loose in your car does not count as distracted driving anymore. This was ruled in a case on March 1st by BC Supreme Court Judge Murray Block.
In sports news, LA Angels outfielder Mike Trout signed the biggest contract in sports history on Tuesday, 10 years for $430 million.
The BC RCMP are asking for help naming a new litter of recruits. 2 German Shepherd puppies, Lager and Lug, made an appearance at RCMP headquarters in Surrey to show off their stuff. The BC RCMP are expecting 13 more German Shepherd puppies at the Police Dog Service Training Center in Alberta. They want children who live in our BC communities to take part in a contest to submit their favorite name. But Constable Scott McLeod says there are some rules.
So the names have to start with the letter M. They have to be no more than 9 letters, 1 or 2 syllables. Contestants must be 14 years of age or younger, and they must live in Canada.
Last year, an 8-year-old student from Langley was one of the few chosen with her submission, Lily. If you have any questions regarding the show, you can contact us at bcit-broadcast.com or bcitnews.com.
That was your BCIT Magazine for this week. I'm Matt Lawson.
And I'm Jenny Cameron. We now leave you with another look at the puppies. We'll see you next week.